The night settles over the plantation like a shroud, swallowing every sound except the soft creak of old wood and the faint rustle of skirts brushing across polished floors. History has painted these halls with gentility, lace, and delicate manners, but beneath the glow of candlelight lived a power far sharper than any whip. Not every master shouted, not every overseer raised a hand. Some controlled with a softness so chilling it froze voices before they could rise, with eyes that saw every movement and remembered every mistake. They called her the mistress of the house, and her authority did not need to be announced. It simply existed quiet, firm, and inescapable. Inside the grand home, the world seemed calm. The curtains hung in perfect folds, the silver gleamed, and the air smelled faintly of lavender water. But for the enslaved people who lived and worked here, the calm was an illusion. Every room held its own rules, every hour its own dangers. A footstep too loud, a glance held too long, a gesture interpreted as disrespect could unleash consequences that rarely left physical marks but carved into the mind like scars. The mistress walked these halls like a queen whose court never dared to breathe without her permission. She could decide the rhythm of the day, the tone of the house, even the fate of those who served her. While the master ruled the fields and the law, it was she who commanded the spaces closest to the enslaved kitchens, parlors, nurseries, chambers. In these rooms, her word was final. She knew every task performed, every dish cleaned, every garment mended. Her eyes caught details others overlooked. Her silence could mean peace or punishment. No one ever truly knew which it would be. The enslaved people learned quickly to read her mood before even hearing her speak. The subtle tightening of her jaw, the way she paused at a doorway, the sharpness in her inhale, these were warnings stronger than any shouted order. She did not need to threaten openly. A lifted eyebrow, a narrowed glance, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes was enough to send fear rippling through those forced to serve her. Her anger, when it came, was often masked behind civility, delivered in measured tones that chilled rather than burned. Yet behind the elegance lay secrets buried under layers of propriety. At night, when the candles burnt low, her frustrations brewed in private rooms. Letters hidden in drawers documented grievances that could change a person's life in an instant. A complaint from her could justify punishment, removal from the house, or even separation from family. The master seldom questioned her reports. Her word, wrapped in the soft voice of a southern lady, carried dangerous weight. There were rules she never spoke aloud but expected to be obeyed without fail. Silence in certain rooms, eyes downcast unless spoken to, absolute stillness when she entered, perfection in every task. Mistakes were rarely forgotten and never forgiven. Enslaved people navigated this world like stepping through a maze whose walls shifted daily, learning through pain what not to do, learning through fear how to survive. The plantation house itself felt alive with tension. Every door, every staircase, every hallway carried memories of whispered commands and unspoken threats. And beneath it all lived the knowledge that the mistress's power did not shout, it whispered. It judged. It observed. It shaped destinies quietly, leaving no witness except those whose lives she controlled. She appeared fragile to the world outside, soft-spoken, refined, a symbol of southern grace. But inside the home, she wielded a different kind of authority. One built on expectations, appearances, and silent domination. A power history rarely acknowledged, but one the enslaved could never forget. And as night gave way to dawn, the house stirred again. The enslaved rose before first light, their steps practiced, their breaths measured, because they knew that before the master even woke, before the fields came alive, before the day truly began, the eyes of the mistress were already watching. Morning light spills through tall windows, soft and golden, but it brings no warmth to those who work under the mistress's gaze. The house comes alive with quiet footsteps, movements so precise they feel rehearsed, breaths measured so they won't disturb the fragile calm she expects. For the enslaved people, the day begins not with hope, but with calculation. Every gesture must be deliberate, every expression controlled, every thought concealed behind a mask of obedience. The mistress's presence lingers even when she's nowhere in sight, her expectations woven into the very air of the household. She moves through the rooms like a drifting shadow, her skirts whispering across the floorboards. She does not raise her voice. She doesn't have to. A single glance is enough to send tremors through anyone caught in her path. Her power lies not in what she says, but in what she implies in the silence that follows her judgments, in the stillness that settles whenever she stops to observe. And observe she does. Every task, every movement, every tiny mistake becomes a piece of information she quietly stores away. When she finds a fault, she rarely shows anger. Instead, her voice turns soft, almost sorrowful, as if the disappointment cuts her deeper than the one who erred. That softness is more terrifying than rage, because it signals consequences that unfold behind closed doors or in secret decisions whispered to the master later that night. A change in assignment, a harsher workload, a sudden removal from the house to the fields, these punishments arrive without warning, delivered with a gentle tone that belies their cruelty. Sometimes her control manifests in smaller, sharper ways. A withheld blanket on a cold night, a reduced portion at dinner, a task added at the last moment that forces someone to work past exhaustion. She never needs to explain. Her decisions drift through the household as unspoken laws. No one questions them, because questioning her means risking far worse than discomfort. Enslaved women often bore the heaviest weight. The mistress watched them with eyes sharpened by jealousy, suspicion, and the suffocating expectations of Southern society. Any sign of youth, beauty, or attention from the master could turn the mistress's gaze into a weapon. She might smile politely in public, but in private, she would find ways to break the spirit of the woman who became the focus of her fear or resentment. A sudden reassignment, endless chores, a cold, calculated cruelty that wore down hope day by day. Behind the polished walls, behind the etiquette and decorum, the mistress ruled with fear wrapped in delicacy. Her diaries, hidden in trunks and drawers, reveal thoughts that history tried to smooth over resentments toward the enslaved, entries cataloging even the smallest annoyances, private notes with the power to change another person's life completely. These pages, never meant to be seen, held the truth the outside world ignored. She was not powerless. She was not gentle. She was the invisible enforcer of a brutal system. For the enslaved, survival meant adapting to her shifting moods. They learned the art of silence, the skill of anticipation, the instinct to move without being noticed. They spoke softly, walked carefully, and worked tirelessly to avoid catching her attention at the wrong moment. Every day felt like a tightrope walk between danger and endurance, between punishment and the thin hope of making it through another night. Yet even in that oppressive world, stories survived. Enslaved people shared whispers among themselves when the house fell quiet. They passed warnings from one generation to the next, lessons on how to decode her behavior, how to stay out of her path, how to endure her unspoken rules. Their memories held the truth that polite society refused to acknowledge. And still, the mistress moved through the house with the confidence of someone certain her secrets would never be revealed. She believed the world outside would always see her as refined, innocent, untouched by cruelty. She believed her whispered commands would fade into the walls and vanish with time. She believed that silence could bury the truth. But silence does not erase suffering. It only hides it until someone begins to listen. In the shadows of that grand house, in the spaces between her footsteps, in the hearts of those she tried to control, the truth waited, waiting for a voice to speak it, waiting for a future that would uncover everything she tried so desperately to conceal.